Hello, everybody. How's it going? Welcome to the show. Hope you guys had a good week. Went out and picked up some records and had yourself a good time. I'll show you what I picked up earlier this week, what I added to this collection that I call the Spirit of Vinyl. This one's first, Lamb of God Sacrament. I've been on the hunt for this album for a while. Me and the wife were out celebrating our anniversary last week. We were down in Nashville, hit a record store that was downtown, and this was in there. He had a couple copies. I picked this one. Now, if you look real close to it, you can see there's a fucking crease right there. And there's one up here in the top also. Brand new. And that's how it was in the fucking shrink wrap. So, but it opens up. It's a double record repress, obviously. It's very cool looking. Like I said, I've been looking for it for a while, so I bought it. Out of the two copies he had, this one was in the best shape. So this is a no bueno for a fucking record store to have records that look like this the second you buy them. Honestly, I don't think that's cool at all. But what are you going to do? I love Lamb of God. I didn't have a copy of that one, so I bought it. It was $45. Not bad for a double album. Price was a little high. We were in downtown Nashville. I have my wife with me. She's not really into this. She's not really into the record collecting and she doesn't quite understand it, but she enjoys the fact that I enjoy it. And I told her, you never come hang out with me. And she's like, well, there's never any records. I'm like, I got all kinds of shit. You name it, I can play it or whatever you're in the mood for. I've got something that's like it or whatever. So buy some records, join in on this collection. So that's what she did. And then she ends up buying this. We got this that day, Juice Newton's Greatest Hits. I honestly had no idea other than the song Angel in the Morning, which we all kind of know. I had no idea what any of this was. Queen of Hearts also. Everybody knows that song if you're around in the 70s. These were hits. It's actually not bad. We listened to it that night. It's a pretty good album. It's not necessarily my style of music, but that's what's wonderful about collecting. You get different styles. And I have other styles. It was fine. It was no different than like when I listened to Berlin or Duran Duran or whatever. It's just, pop music from a different era. She also picked up this, Linda Ronstadt's Greatest Hits. We listened to both of them that night. I did prefer the Juice Newton album, honestly. If you want my honest opinion over Linda Ronstadt, I feel like she's got a better voice and everything else. But that's the wonderful thing about collecting records is the fact that now my wife has bought records that are being incorporated into this collection. This collection that I started, and then when I found the stuff in the dumpster dive a couple years back and taking Mike's collection and putting it with my own, and my friend Rick's collection when he died that I got, which was small and kind of old and beat up, but it's still part of this collection. It's part of the whole spirit of the whole thing. Hence why, like I said, why I call the show The Spirit of Vinyl. The spirit of my record collection is part Rick and part Mike and part me and now part my wife and part of my son because my son's buying records and he's got his own, which we haven't really combined, but we sit down here and we listen to music together. And one day all this will be his. He's told me, it doesn't matter. Mom will never get rid of it because I won't let her. I'm like, good. You keep it. If you don't have a place for it, you keep it right here in this house. So that's the wonderful thing about that is all the different genres and the different people who help build a record collection and the taste and the things that we loved back in the day compared to the things that we love now and building our collection and getting the records of the things that we love to listen to and having it build its own entity, essentially. It's its own spirit. And that's why I love record collecting. Speaking of building taste, today we're going to talk about one of the greatest 80s, quote, hair bands or hair metal albums of all times. Not probably the greatest hair band because most people have never heard of these guys, but this album that came out in 1984 is one of the greatest early glam hair metal albums of all time, in my opinion. And that is Madam X, We Reserve the Right. Check that shit out. If that doesn't scream 80s, I don't know what does. Said this album came out October 28th, 1984. I picked this up about a year and a half ago. It's fucking great. The only song most people would know is You're High in High School, but every song on here is just great 80s anthem music for the time. It's got Roxy Petrucci, who plays drums. Let's see, there's Roxy right there on that end. There's her sister Maxine, and Britt Kaiser on vocals, and Chris Debler on bass guitars. So this band came out in 84. They had a video on MTV called High in High School, and me in 84 as a 14 to a 15-year-old was fucking hooked on this. I had t-shirts. I had this on cassette. I did not have this on vinyl. I just got this like a year and a half ago. I loved this album, so I had to buy it. I know it may be cheesy and it looks like, I don't know, some sort of STT gang got together and, decided to spread it out. But the music is fucking great. And it kind of defines an era. It's early in that era. This record came with the inner sleeve, and it's got lyrics on the back, and it's on Jet Records. It's actually produced by Rick Derringer, which we all know of Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo. So this is on Jet Records. And this record is near mint, and so is the cover. And like I said, I bought it like a year and a half ago. I ordered it from eBay, and it said it was new and sealed. So I thought, okay, no problem. I'm going to order it. It's probably a repress or whatever. I just clicked on eBay. I bought it. It was $25. Well, I open it up, go to Discogs to put it in the system. Actually, it's an original pressing from 1984. I don't know if Jet Records has a warehouse full and they have old new stock or what, but I bought it. It was sealed. It was brand new, and it was original pressing from 84 version of Jet Records. Now you could, I gave it 25. I think it was $25. I just went on Discogs to check it out. It's you can get a copy of this for like $50 now. There's only like on Discogs, there's only like 30 of them that are for sale, like 15 from the United States. So I don't know where I got this. Like I said, I bought it on eBay, which I don't really do anymore. I don't really buy records on eBay. I buy most of my stuff from the internet. I just buy it from Discogs. I feel like I can trust that site better. But anyway, so We Reserve the Right by Madam X is, if you've never heard this and you love that early 80s sound, you should listen to this album. This is one of the, High in High School, Come One, Come All, She's Hot Tonight, Dirty Girls, Max Volume, Metal in My Veins, Reserve the Right, Good with Figures, Cat's Got Your Tongue, We Want to Rock, and Stand Up and Fight are the track listings. It was actually, the critics liked it, but it didn't sell very well. It went to 146 on the 200, and then they pretty much disappeared. Roxy went on to, Roxy over here on the side. She went on to play drums for Vixen. She still plays with Vixen to this day. I'm not sure what happened to Maxine or the other two guys. They just kind of disappeared. I know before the band disappeared, the lead singer had quit, and there's a video from MTV out there where Sebastian Bach has hair that's like 9 feet high, and he was the lead singer's band before Skid Row, and nobody knew who he was. He was like 16, 17 years old, and he took over as the lead singer for Madam X, and I don't think they ever recorded anything, and then this band just disappeared. And that was it. And I had the cassette and I loved it all through high school. And then as you get older, you lose things like that, especially cassettes. I never really, I had them for a long time. I lost all my cassettes a long time ago. And we used to buy cassettes and we'd buy certain things on vinyls or whatever. Then when the CD era came, of course, I don't think this was ever repressed on CD. If it was, I would be shocked because they were just like one and done, essentially. This band was, there's another album out there by Madam X. They've reformed later in the 2000s to put on another album, but this one is Time in a Bottle. And for me, the spirit of this takes me back to that time when I was in the ninth grade and I was listening to this band and everybody was like, dude, what the hell are you listening to? What is that? Because back then, early 80s, Motley Crue had just started coming out and everything else. Nobody was playing music like this. Well, a lot of people were playing music like this, but it wasn't super popular yet, and there wasn't all of this, towards the end of the 80s, every band kind of looked like this. They all had the big hair. They all wore makeup. They all wore the leather and the denim, and it was like cookie cutter. But Madam X was in the beginning, but they just, one of those bands that's there in the beginning of a genre that never really quite takes hold. But later on, when you look back on them, you can see the influence of what they were doing and how they were as good or better than anybody else in this scene at the time. And it's a fucking great album. And if you like that 80s rock and roll party type attitude, songs about chicks and drugs and your dick and so on, this is a fucking great album to put on and just have fun with. So I would highly recommend Madam X Reserve the Right. And like I said, for me, the spirit of this album and the reason this is in this collection is because I loved it when I was a teenager. And I feel really lucky that I ordered it and I got old new stock. I got an original press that was steel sealed. And I play it multiple times and it still sounds fucking great. I love the old school Jet Records logo. Mostly I see this label on early Aussie albums, a few others. Jet Records was Ozzy's label when he left Black Sabbath. It was ran by Sharon Osbourne's dad, whose name escapes me right now. And so every time I see that label, I also kind of think of that era of Ozzy Osbourne and all that stuff that was going on in the early 80s. So I do think the label is cool. You know, the label they put in the middle. That's what's also cool about records is you get these type of visuals and you get cool, you know, it's cool. It's an era. I mean, look at these people. Nobody dresses like this anymore. You know, we dressed like this back in the day. We thought we were fucking cool as shit. And, you know, it's got this cool inner sleeve. It's got lyrics and thank you notes on the back and, you know, nice pictures of these guys with huge hair and just scary look and everything else. My parents were fucking terrified. You know, I had this album I would listen to all the time. I had a t-shirt with the front cover on it and it just big, ugly dudes with big hair. And my parents were just like, you know, my parents were like Kenny Rogers and, you know, the Bee Gees and shit like that. They did not understand what was happening to their 14-year-old son, who all of a sudden, once he discovered Kiss, also discovered all this other music. And they just thought it was going to be a phase. And here I am, 40 plus years later, talking to you guys on the internet about it and having a great time, listening to Madam X still to this day, just like a teenager having a blast. And that's the wonderful thing about collecting records is reliving past lives. And like I said, integrating other people's tastes, other people in your family, other people's tastes. And I know a lot of you out there are like, oh, fucking, I only like a certain genre. And if my wife tried to bring in a different genre, maybe I wouldn't let her do it. Well, then let her start her own or meld them together and enjoy the spirit of your collection, kind of what we do here. And that's, like I said, why I called the show The Spirit of Vinyl, to help to bring in spirits, to bring in that 14-year-old teenager who loves shit like this, who still loves shit like this, and to bring in the pop music from the 70s that the wife likes and, you know, the country music that she likes, even though I'm not a fan of country music at all. There's a section of country over here. And we don't play it a whole lot because she doesn't really come out here to hang out and listen to music. But when she does, I have to listen to country music. And I will do country music albums and talk about those in the future or whatever. Not a fan of the genre, but it's still part of the collection. That's part of her part of the collection. And some of those I found with the Mike part of the collection and just melding those things together and making this wonderful thing that we call vinyl record collecting and what we love about it and discovering new things and opening our minds to other things as we get older and finding older stuff that we never had in the past because you want to fill in the collection. Maybe you have one or two of a certain band's albums. And you're like, okay, I'm going to get the other three. And then you end up buying them and you build your collection. And you add more spirit to your collection. So anyway, that's pretty much it for me this week. I give Madam X, We Reserve the Right, 5 out of 5 stars. It is one of the best albums of the year 1984. It is great hard rock, early 80s glam metal. And if you're a fan of that genre and you do not have this album, I suggest you buy it. It'll cost you $50 right now. It's about $50 out there on Discogs. It's well worth the money. And if you're not sure, fucking go to Spotify, play it, listen to it. Then you'll know I'm right. Buy it on vinyl. I think they're all the same. I don't think this has been repressed. I think they're all going to be like either if it says it's sealed, it's going to be old new stock or whatever. This one's a Pittman pressing. I don't know differences in pressing. Some people prefer others. I happen to get a Pittman pressing. It sounds fucking great. So yeah, go ahead and go pick it up. Spend the $50. Or if you're not sure in the first, but you do love 80s hair metal or whatever, give it a listen and then order it, and you will not regret it. All right. Thanks again for listening. Don't forget, if you like what I'm doing here, go down below and like and subscribe. That way you'll know when I put out a new show. I really appreciate your guys' time watching this jackass sit here and talk about music and vinyl records and dumb shit or whatever. I do really appreciate it. So yeah, go ahead, like, subscribe, whatever. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to you guys next week. You guys all have fun out there looking for records or enjoying yourself. Have a good time. Rock and roll. Party on. Whatever. Yeah, party on. It's Wayne's World. It's 1980 again. No, you can party on if you want, but let's don't do that ever again. Not everything from the 80s is as great as Madam X's We Reserve the Right. So, all right. Thanks again, guys, for listening. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys later.